Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another Muskrat adventure. Chat with the Muskrat. We have been, it's been a while since I've been on here due to some COVID and really that's it. That's about it. COVID kicked my butt. But I'm glad to be back. I'm feeling pretty good. I went from being gone absent to pretty busy this last few days. I was live Friday night with Mark, which was great, and then last night on Catfish Weekly, which was a really cool experience. I was proud to be part of the show. And then here we are tonight, and I've got my buddy Zack Murray sitting with me, and we got some competition. I'll be honest, we got Elstan live with Chunky Cats, and we also got Palmetto Cats live for 24 hours. He's just now hit 12-hour mark, and so those guys are out there fishing. They're live. So I just want to say I really appreciate the folks that stopped in. Looks like James Dockery was first in the house. Skip Stewart, Buckeye Cat Fishing, D, Creole Fishing. Jeremy, what's up, buddy? Let's see who else we got. Abbott's in the house. Catfishing Crappie Mark, Catfishing Katie Collins. Let's see, Mike Sampson in the house. Try and get down through here. A lot of highs. Hi. And let's see. Fishing with the Chads in the house. Josh Pitts. Josh, that's I think you're new. I don't remember seeing your name before. Fishing with Paula Smith. Paula, thanks for stopping in. Appreciate you being here. Let's see who else we got. Mike Greenwell's in the house. Fin Seeker TV. Dinks Outdoors. And the names just keep pouring in. So Tim Molina's in the house. Catfish Weekly. Looks like Lyle's in the house. Thank you, Lyle. So, but we're not. Well, I'm excited to have Zack Murray on here. So you guys probably have seen one of my latest videos where we all went to Alabama. And man, oh man, do we have a good time? We had a good time,
did we?
Huh?
Oh man.
But that's at the current version of our journey, of our adventure. So Zack, where did your adventure start? Kind of fill us in a little bit on who kind of got you started, or what got you started into catfishing and building that passion. Because you got passion.
I think it's more like an addiction.
Yeah, that might be right.
Oh, you know how it is through your life. You have different passions and so forth, but at times. But last few years, it's been trying to catch the trophy catfish. But we'll back up to the beginning. Of course, most folks, usually their father, or their dad takes them out for the first time. And of course, my dad did and caught the first fish and all that. But that wasn't his passion. But I'll tell you who got me started wanting to catch more big catfish. I've got an uncle. He's up in his 90s now. He lives up in Beaver Creek, Ohio. His name is Hobart Murray. And
okay.
he used to take a special interest in any of us cousins that wanted to do any kind of fishing or outdoor type stuff. I mean, he would just absolutely go out of his way. He would drive all the way from Beaver Creek, Ohio, all the way down here to Southern Ohio to take us fishing or to go hunting. And it wasn't just once or twice. It was our whole life, even as an adult. And I'd like to give a shout out to him and let him know that, he's still alive and still alive and kicking. So I'd like to give a shout out to him and publicly thank him for all that he's done for not just me, but all the cousins. He's been a great example to us. And I'll tell you the story that goes with it, the beginning. When I think I was 12 years old, we went up. He used to take us camping. And one of those trips, we caught a 29.5-pound flathead, shovelhead up in Paint Creek. That absolutely started. That was the beginning.
Is that Paint Creek the reservoir, or Paint Creek just out of the creek?
The creek.
Okay.
And that was we caught lots of fish up there, but we were targeting big fish. He was. I mean, all we did was help him catch bait, really. He knew what he was doing. We didn't. But that's how we all learn, is from somebody else. But yeah, that was it. And I mean, that was so special. I mean, it's amazing. Now I'm probably about the same. No, he was younger than I am right now. Whenever he was teaching us all that stuff, I mean, he was pretty special. Still is. So I wanted to get that part out, and then I can tell you a couple other ones.
Well, and that's a great example. It just takes one person, to take the time to work with somebody, or to, take them out and show them the ropes, get them started. And, my journey has been to try to be that one person for as many people as I can. Yeah. And you're doing the same. I've learned just as much from you as I have about anybody, just hanging out with you, and your ability to read graphs. Of course, your background with the military, gives you a lot of leg up on that stuff. But yeah, be that person for somebody. Yeah, they don't have to be your kids if they ain't into it, and they can be a cousin, a nephew, a niece, whatever it takes. So, but one of the things here, let me get this out of the way real quick. Justin's Fishing Fetish hopped in here with a question. He says, Zach, what's your favorite water to fish? That's a good question.
Well, if I got to pick, I would say Lake Wilson down in Alabama.
We got spoiled. That's for sure.
Exactly. On a daily basis, normal times when, because that's quite a trip down there.
Right.
The Ohio River in southern Ohio, that's my home waters. That's where I fish most of the time. That's where I know a little bit. I don't profess to know everything or even come close to it.
No, none of us ever will.
When we want to talk to that person, we call up Chris Souders or Doc Lang.
Yep.
Yep.
Those
are always got the answer.
Yeah. And they're so free with the information. It's awesome. So Zach, the reason I was excited to bring you on is that I feel that you have a really cool story. And you were like me and many people I feel in chat. And that is, that transformation to going from catching, decent sized fish, eater sized fish. I'm sure you caught some occasional good fish, to, stepping into the trophy size catfish world, and what you did to make that transformation, because in my eyes, you're very successful at it. I think you've done a fantastic job, targeting and chasing, big fish. And so I thought it'd be cool to share with everybody kind of the steps you took and what you did along the way to take that ride.
Well, if it wasn't for YouTube, I guarantee you I would not have a fraction of the information that I have right now. Not just from watching the videos, but getting to know these different people, and then talking to them on Facebook, talking to them other places and so forth, and you see what they're doing out there, like Hagen Grubbs or Steve Douglas or whoever it might be. You have confidence in them because you see their results. You see these guys out there catching giants, man. And that's probably one of the biggest things to start with. Learning all these different techniques. and there's no there's nothing you can do more that will help you more than just getting out there and actually fishing. That is the biggest thing. For me it was, because I can, I watch these videos, especially with Steve Douglas, teaching you how to drag baits, or I'm sorry,
Right.
not to drag them part, but the suspend drifting. And man, I tried doing that. I thought, man, I got it down, watching it. But until I got out there and done it a whole lot, and he just makes it look so easy, and I'd go out there and all I was doing was losing tackle.
I've done that.
But anyway, that was probably the first big step, going from using chicken livers and all that crazy stuff. I should say crazy stuff. It works. It obviously works.
Yeah.
But there's better stuff, of course. And we try different things all the time. If somebody told me limestone rocks on a hook was catching fish, I'd probably try it at least and see what happens.
Yep.
But anyway, back to the journey, to what really started to catching the bigger fish. And I don't feel like I catch all these big, a lot of big fish, maybe 30 and 40 pounders, but that's quite a step up from what it was.
For our waters down here, what's your fishing? 30, 40 pound fish or trophy size fish? Because we don't get a whole lot of 50s and 60s.
And just when you think, you really are on top of it, I'll tell this little quick story. Last year, I sent somebody a picture of me. I'd caught a 40-some pound fish down here in these waters. And I sent him the picture. And then what do I get right back? A picture of him, a fish he'd caught 12 hours before that, or I'm sorry, 24 hours. That was even bigger than mine. So you never catch the biggest one ever, no matter where you're at, I guess. But back to the subject matter here. There was a few things that made a huge difference. The biggest, and I'll just go through them, and I'm not plugging anybody here. I don't mean to be plugging a product or anything like that, but one of the really big things that really helped me, because I was drifting a lot and suspend drifting. I got some good rod holders instead of these, Walmart, cheaper plastic garbage. I got a set of good heavy duty rod holders from Steve Douglas, and I put them all around the boat. And that was like night and day. It was just awesome, the difference going from those other ones to these. I didn't miss. I was catching just about everything that hit. You had so much more control. You wasn't almost losing rods because something got hung up. I lost one rod down here because the rod holder broke. Things like that. Now, the next big step, I got a remote control trolling motor. I got a Minn Kota, and it had a remote control, because I seen Steve Douglas have one, and I finally saved up enough money where I could get one. And when I got that thing, let me tell you, that was just like a whole nother level. I was able to do stuff I could never do because you had spot lock, and that spot lock was like magic. I wasn't sitting there with my foot on a pedal and all that business. That was a huge, giant step. I started consistently catching lots and lots of fish. And mixed in those fish, there was some 30-pound fish all of a sudden. Lots of 20s and 30s now, because I was able to stay, and when I was drifting, I was able to stay right on that ledge. I could watch it, on my little teeny tiny 5-inch screen that I had,
Right.
little hummingbird 5-inch screen, and I had, I mean, I was literally up there inches from it. Yeah. And then I got one of those a different mount for my little 5-inch screen. I got an adjustable mount where I could point it wherever I wanted to, and that made a huge difference. It was just made things easier.
Yeah.
And then came the side imaging. I stepped up the game. I got a bigger unit. I got side imaging and all that stuff. And you don't have to have any of this stuff, but Lord,
Right.
it makes it takes an average fisherman and just makes you so much more efficient.
Yeah.
Because you don't have to know where that hole is at, that secret spot. You can find it.
Right.
Skip Stewart and I went out this weekend on Saturday.
I saw you.
I took him to a spot that I had found last spring. I had only fished it, I think, 2 or 3 times, twice previous to this. And it's in a spot, in a place. It's a straight piece of river, and there's like nothing around it. It just looks like a straight river. And I was just cruising up through there one day, just playing with electronics, and abracadabra, man, there's a secondary channel over there, and there's a dip in it. And in that dip, of course, there's a bunch of junk. And if I hadn't had side imaging, there's no way, because there's nothing to key you to go, there might be something over there, but that's where the electronics and stuff can really help you. At least for somebody like me. I'm not the smartest fisherman. I'm not the best, but buddy, I try a lot. I put a lot of hours in it because that's what I like to do.
And so, because you say that, one of the things that kind of strolled by earlier, and several people said it, was time on the water. Zach,
yes,
give these guys, because I got a pretty good idea. And give these guys in chat here an idea how many hours a week you fish on average.
During the winter, daylight to dusk on Saturday, and probably half the Sundays. That's during the winter. Now,
I know better during the rest of the year.
Now, the rest of the, when we have longer days, I'll take my boat to work, and I'll stop on the way home. Sometimes I come home. I got a boat ramp. It's, I think, 7 or 8 minutes down there to it. So sometimes I come home and pick the boat up, have everything ready, have my bait tank full of bait already, and go fish until 8, 9 o'clock, whatever it is. I mean, it don't have to be daylight. I fish at night when it's warm out. In the wintertime, I don't fish that much at night.
Right.
Safety is a big thing, and in the wintertime, our section of river here, it isn't like the rest of the Ohio. This is a watershed area, and the water level goes from 14 foot deep to 45 foot deep. I mean, and it's in the wintertime, it hardly ever gets below 25 feet, something like that.
They keep that pool above it regulated pretty heavily. They don't play around.
It's a holding area, and Skip and I just found out last year, it can never be too deep to catch fish.
Or fast.
Or you just, if it's faster, it just shoves everything over into the current seams more. I mean, they don't have a choice then. The faster the water, I mean, it just stacks them up in a smaller area that they're going to be able to stay in. So there was times last year, it's 45 or 47 foot deep here in this pool, and I mean, you couldn't even pull. We launched from the parking lot.
Oh yeah.
you have to pull down the ramp, use in the parking lot, back it down into the water, and we went down there and caught lots of big fish.
Mike, that's good to hear. Keep going there, buddy.
We were when it's like that though. Like I said, you've been with me down there. I've tried to, I've shared everything down there where our favorite little area is.
Yeah.
You get out of the current, on the edge of that current, in some of the deader little spots where it's slowed down and so forth. And, you and I have been there, and once again, if the style of fishing that we do, you have to have a big trolling motor to do what we do most of the time.
Right.
It takes a lot of thrust to hold that thing in place when I don't know how fast that current is sometimes, man. It's pretty fast.
It gets up there.
But it's too dangerous down there to really throw an anchor. I mean, you'd have to keep your knife on your side all the time. I know how you keep a knife close to your anchor. Man, I'm telling you, I'd be scared to even do that down there in those crazy conditions. But with the trolling motor, you don't get in trouble that way.
Right.
You're not going to get tethered or any of that stuff to an anchor that won't let go, or get turned around backwards. Like I know it happened to you once last year, and I think it probably happened to all of us, just not in such extreme conditions.
Yeah.
But that's another thing out here. Just getting out on the river, and you guys were talking about it last night on Catfish Weekly. Find somebody who knows that river really well. Yeah. Not to go out and find those fishing spots, but to teach you how to be safe out there. I have a really good friend of mine, Todd, that from day one, man, he took me out in his boat first. Then he went out my boat a few times. Actually, I went out with him a couple times in his boat. But he taught me so much. I mean, and just a couple trips. It was like, do this, don't do that, and how to anchor and how to treat the barges, other boat traffic, other boaters, other fishermen. Man. And every time we go out, of course, he keeps teaching me stuff that I wouldn't even have thought of.
And that's what it takes. It takes that one person that you trust that can help you, break the ice. I seen Rusty Moorfield pop in just now, and Rusty fishes the Mississippi. I wouldn't dare go to the Mississippi blind like I would be if I just took off and went down there. And so, a guy like Rusty that has been fishing that river that I trust, he will, I've been wanting to plan a trip with him for quite a while, but staying on top of things, stay in front of the boat, Roger. Well, hey, Trevor Long's in chat here, and I've told a couple people this story, but Trevor and I had gone to the river a day, and fast current. We was fishing some hot stuff, but that's what we were targeting. We found some structure and had a break in the current there. And man, we thought we was really going to get fired up. And we was in his boat that day and threw my anchor out, and the anchor rope. And before we knew it, that anchor rope got tied up in the motor, spun that boat around backwards, and we thought we was done. We thought that boat was going down. And he said, "Hey, we can't both be in the back of the boat, Roger. Get in the front of the boat because you're fat." He didn't call me fat, but I knew what he meant when he said, "Hey, you need to get in the front of the boat." We'll talk more about safety and all that stuff later, but I just seen him pop in there. I want to say, hey, Trevor.
There's one tip that Todd taught me, and I'm going to pass it on to everybody. When he took me out for the very first time out in the river, now I had been out a few times in my own boat, and I would stay close, just close to the boat ramp where I felt comfortable and stuff like that. It's more like I was bank fishing from the water. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I just didn't have confidence until he took me out and taught me a few things. But the one thing he said, I'm going to give you a spot or two. And he said, you go to those spots and then you fish those spots, these two spots. And he says, you'll probably catch a fish or two and catch a fish or two. And he said, then spend the rest of the day looking for another spot. Go out there and, adventure around, see what you can find. Use your graph. Put waypoints out there. Look for structure, look for the ledges and all that stuff. And so, I started off with this area, a little tiny area, and then it just kept getting bigger, and I kept building. And now, we go clear down past Vanceburg, and we go all the way to the dam the other direction. So,
Right.
Not that we know every inch of it, but we've got an understanding, a little bit of knowledge about it.
Yeah.
We can catch a few fish and do it safely most of the time. So
yeah, we're getting called out here about not wearing our life jackets.
Well, when we get up there at that dam,
yeah,
when it's right, I'm we wear life jackets up the dam. So
yeah,
we don't do it all the time when we're not up around that crazy stuff. But when that current's ripping out there, those inflatable jobs are awful nice, aren't they?
yeah. And for the guys that just don't like wearing them big bulky life jackets, and that's your excuse to not wear one, because that used to be mine. I'll admit it. I didn't like that big bulky thing on me. Spend the money and invest. You can shop around. You can find some used ones. I got a heck of a deal on some used PFDs that are inflatable. They're very non-restricting. Once you get it on for a while, you forget you're wearing it. And even that, I still am bad about not wearing it all the time. But keeping them life jackets on the boat is keeping them life jackets on your body, and not just the boat, is what's going to save your life and keep you safe. Rusty says his life jacket's on 99% of the time, and I believe it. Every live stream, video, picture I see Rusty in, he's got his life jacket on. Justin says, I definitely wear one when I'm with Roger.
You don't know when he's going to fall
on the floor. That's why we call it Muskrat Adventures. It's an adventure. That ain't muskrat catching. Of course, I don't want to catch a muskrat anyway. Kentucky Catman says, is Zack a Marine? Absolutely. And what a proud one at that. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Zack, I don't think I've ever asked you this, but how long was you in the service?
12 and a half years.
12 and a half years. Well, I know we've said it in person, but thank you for your service, brother. It doesn't get said enough.
Glad I was able to.
Uh-oh. Let's see some comments coming through here. But I did see one earlier that was kind of interesting. I think it was Jim Catman Clark had asked, what was your go-to rig? If you had a rig, your number one go-to rig.
That's pretty easy. Kentucky rig, 2 hooks.
Kentucky rig. Yep. Double your pleasure, double your fun.
That's right. We're allowed to have 3 hooks on each rod here.
Yes,
there's
sir.
nothing. I have put 3 on there, depending on the situation and so forth. But as far as a go-to rig, that's probably it.
You do a lot of suspend drifting, though.
Yes, but the thing is, you can use that for everything.
Yeah,
everything
that's
but
true.
bumping. Everything but bumping. I don't know how that would work out, but yeah.
That's something fairly new under your belt as well, isn't it? Bumping this year?
Yes. Actually, towards the end of the summer, I tried it a couple times earlier in the spring and actually caught a couple fish. I didn't have confidence in it yet. I mean, I knew it would work. I should say it like that. I didn't have confidence in my abilities to do it. That's something that I do feel pretty comfortable doing it now. I mean, I can feel it. And I talked to a pretty special rod builder here the other day, and he's making me a bumping rod. Thanks, Lyle. I'm sure, because I'm not using right now. I'm using a monster rod. It's a tangling with catfish, medium heavy, which is not ideal at all. But
Right.
it's stiff enough that I can feel real good with it. I can feel well. I can feel the bottom okay. It's just, it's a little bit heavy and it's not ideal. So, we'll have a little bit better setup here come spring.
A lot of good information coming through chat. Just a lot of different comments and a couple questions here. I like the one here. Rusty said rigs are as seasonal as baits, and I agree with that. Wintertime I'll shorten up my leaders. I usually take my floats off depending on what the fish are doing. Kentucky rigs, different times of the year. Betty says, when are we going back to Alabama? Tomorrow?
Yeah.
Well, question here was what water temperature do you normally stop drifting, or do you?
Well, the last 2 years, which I've only been trophy fishing for the last 2 years,
Right.
Or trying to catch big ones and all that kind of stuff. And it seems like everybody says there's really not a magic temperature, but it seems like everybody agrees about 50 degrees. It seems like it's not that low, honestly. Around 55 degrees, it's like it seems like they just don't, where I'm fishing at anyway, it seems like I don't get hardly anything below 55 degrees. So, we do more anchoring up,
Right.
So,
yeah.
And I actually went through, I always take pictures of my fish. And the reason is it's a history for me to go back and, because on the pictures, it tells you where you're at also.
And where you're at and the
back,
date.
Right. And I went back and I was dripped last year. I caught a ton of fish last year. I mean, it's phenomenal for me anyway.
Yeah.
I went back to my pictures and I told Skip this because I forgot what the date was. I was off a month. I was thinking this was still October last week for some reason. And anyway, I was talking to Skip and I said, hey, man, October 19th last year, I caught 27 fish at this certain area, drifting, suspend drifting. I said, that's what we got to do tomorrow. And, I went on and on and on. And he let me go for a while. And he says, this is the end of November, right? I was so excited to see those pictures and stuff. I thought for sure, man, I knew what we were going to do the next day.
Well, there for a couple of weeks, it didn't feel like November. That's for sure.
No, it didn't. But we came up with a good plan. I say we did. I'll tell you what I did last weekend. I told Skip Friday night. He said, well, where we're going to go? And I said, I don't know yet. Exactly. I said, I got some ideas, but I said, we're going to pray about it. We're going to figure out where to go. We're going to have to get some help. So I did. And so we went out Saturday morning and did what I felt like we were supposed to do. And
right.
It worked. It worked this time. Yeah, Skip hooked up with a real nice fish.
Was it 37-pound blue?
37-pounder in that little spot that was, out in the middle of nothing. And
yeah,
we caught enough fish to make it a good trip. And he caught that one nice big one.
Yeah.
If we was down at Wheeler or down at Wilson, it'd be a drop in the bucket for down there. But for around these parts, man, that's trophy worthy for our area. So
yeah,
we were real happy with it.
And that's what I was saying earlier. In our waters, 30 to 40 pounds is a trophy fish. There are 50s and some 60s, but they're not that common. Until you start going further south. Right. 30s and 40-pound fish in this area is a good fish, good solid fish. Especially.
And I want to say this about our area. We hear stories from people. And you've already heard this. We've already talked about this in the boat. We hear these stories about, so and so. Oh, he caught a 60, he caught a 70, he caught an 80, and all this. And you start kind of prodding them and asking a few questions and stuff. And they didn't even weigh it.
Yeah.
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 They have scales. Then you keep asking questions, and
Yeah.
So when people tell you some of that stuff, I think a lot of it's stories. I'm sure they thought it was that big, but sometimes. But you were with me when we caught the 53-pounder down there at Wilson, and I would have swore that thing was 70.
Yeah. If we didn't have
Even
a scale, it would have been 75-pound fish.
It would. It's because the excitement. And they just, from a 40 to a 50, it looks like it's twice as big. So
right.
It's deceiving. So unless you got scales,
yeah,
or at least measure the thing, do the length and girth or something, then you can get really close that way too. But
yeah, I've had to do that a few times, but I've invested in them whisker seeker scales, and I played with a lot of different scales, and in my opinion,
hey,
for the money,
can I tell them about the second? Can I tell them about the second time I ever met you? With the scale thing and all that. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Last winter, I was out fishing, and it was at the end of February 29th. I remember because you asked me the date. February 29th, I was out fishing, and it was like there was nobody on the river. But I knew there was somebody on the river because up the boat ramp, there was one vehicle. So I knew there had to be somebody else out on the river. And but I wasn't sure. I was guessing that he was down. Whoever it was the same direction I was. But anyway, I caught the biggest fish of my life at the time. I hooked in, got a great big old fish, and realized my scales did not work. I had scales, didn't have a lot of confidence in them anyway, and then they didn't work. So I filled up my live well, and I put the fish in there, and I thought, there's one other guy down here, and he's got a pretty long trailer, so it's got to be a big boat. So maybe it's somebody. I know it ain't a bass fisherman on February 29th, so I thought it had to be a cat fisherman. So I got back out in the river with this big fish in my live well, and I start heading down the river, and I hadn't gone very far, and I seen a boat off in the distance, and it was Roger and his wife, and they were reeling up their rods, and they were getting ready to move, I guess, and I cruised up next to them and asked them if they had a set of scales. So we got to meet second. That was the second time we'd ever met.
Yeah.
That was a good meeting.
Yeah.
And
I was like, hey,
the fish
I know that guy.
We ended up weighing 46 pounds and 2 ounces, I believe.
Yeah. Yep.
So,
it actually turned out to be Trevor Long was on the river that day too. He supposed to put in after you, and that was the day Trevor hit a. He never did figure it out. Now, I'm going to assume, in my opinion, the most deadly log, tree, stump, or whatever in the water is them ones that ride straight up and down, because you just can't hardly see them.
They're submarines.
Submarines. And Trevor ended up hitting one that day and about sank. He lost his boat. Luckily, Trevor was smart enough to know when you're taking on water, get on plane and get that thing loaded up as quick as you can. Because he called me and said, hey, I'm taking on water. Where are you at? And I said, I can be wherever you need to be. But he was on hot pursuit, and he was able to safely get that thing loaded up, him and his son, and get that thing out of there. But he really done some damage. Had to fix that thing. He had replaced the whole transom on that thing. Yep, Trevor just said that's the day I hit something in the river. Yeah. It's funny. There was only 3 of us on the river, and it was me, you, and Trevor. So.
Yeah, and it was cold too, if I remember right.
Yeah, it was cold. That's for sure. I forgot what I was getting. I had something else to talk about, and I can't remember what it was. Daggone it. Tell them about the first 2 you guys met and threw my anchor in the. Oh,
okay. I'll tell it.
That's the first time we met.
Yes. So I got a new boat back in January of last year.
A nice Sea Arc.
And and that was, another step up, being able to go farther, faster, and all that stuff. It all those things help. But anyway, I had my first trip in my home waters. I put in and I went to my favorite little honey hole. And across the river, I seen somebody. There was a boat way over there, something across the river, and so I started trying to get anchored up on my spot. The thing is, my other boat was only 16 foot, and it didn't weigh nothing. It was just really light, and I was using the same anchor for a 20-foot CR, and it just absolutely wouldn't grab. I mean, it just kept, it just drag, and it wouldn't hook to nothing, and all this. So I get a phone call. I mean, I was struggling. I probably tried to anchor 6 times on this spot. Finally, I just ran the boat up on the bank and fished, cast out, and actually caught a couple fish. And I got a phone call from Skip Stewart, and not phone call. He texted me, and he asked if I was fishing. I said, "Yeah, I'm fishing." And he said, "Where?" Turns out it was him and Roger, and they were across the river from me. And I think I ended up talking to him on the phone, and he's inquiring about why I was going back and forth so much. And I told him, about the anchor problem. He said, "Well, I've got an extra anchor, a heavy one." He said, "Come over here and get it." So I did. So I went over and got this real nice heavy anchor, gave me 100-foot of rope with it. And it wasn't the soft kind of rope like I got. It was kind of like the floatable type. It's a little stiffer, but it floats. And so I went over and got his anchor. I went back over there, threw the anchor, tied it, and man, it grabbed first shot, bam, right where I wanted to be. I tied it off. I start fishing, and what happens when you lose your anchor? All your lines start getting loose and all that stuff. And I realized, I looked up, and I didn't have an anchor. There was no rope. I had pulled completely off of that thing. That's the stiffer rope. I wasn't used to it, and I didn't tie it off proper for that stiffer rope. It just came undone, man. It's all done. So Skip's nice, beautiful anchor, it's still there somewhere. It's hooked to something, because wherever it was, it worked really well. So I had to give him an anchor the next, it was 2 weeks, I believe it was, before I seen him again. But I got him another anchor.
That's when we were experimenting with Justin's Fishing Fetish. Had built an anchor, a prototype. This thing looks medieval times. It's crazy looking anchor, but it holds. That's the anchor we were using that day while we had an extra anchor, and we had an extra anchor. We was using this other crazy looking thing, but it works. And I've done the same thing. I've been trying to anchor up on a spot. My buddy, I couldn't get him to throw the anchor at right. It's timing. And when you're fishing flooded waters and you're fishing a current seam, and you got to get it just right. Because on them current seams, a lot of times that water's going the other way. And if you get too far on the inside, your boat's going to start turning around backwards. And I could not get him to drop that anchor right. And I got frustrated. I said, "Here, you drive the boat. Let me drop the anchor." And I gone up there and grabbed the anchor, and we finally got right where I wanted to be. And I took that anchor, and that is a beautiful toss. Brand new, never used hurricane anchor. And that guy, he never hooked the rope up to it. He's been up there trying to drop it all this time, never hooked the rope up to it. And when I tossed it, it's gone. First and last toss that hurricane anchor ever got. It's still out there somewhere.
If you go up to the Greenup Dam, there's probably half a dozen of my anchors up there. Not from my other, before I knew about these with the zip ties and all that stuff, the no snags or never lost design.
Right.
Man, now once I started using those are awesome. Whoever dreamed that up, boy, hats off to them.
That's funny.
That idea.
Something crazy somebody else thinks of, and then we all just sit here and scratch our heads like, why in the world? You know what I mean? Like rumble strips on the side of the road or like, man, who thought of that? Why did we never do that before? That's crazy.
That was something simple. I could have thought of that, but I didn't.
Yeah. And here's the thing. There are a million more things like that to be thought of, and we just got to think of it. I sit here and think of crazy contraptions and inventions and ideas and stuff all the time, but they won't go nowhere.
You got to follow through.
Huh? Got to follow through?
Got to follow through.
Yeah, this is fun. Hey, I don't know about anybody else. I know attendance is down a little bit. We got, like I said, we're competing with some top dogs in the YouTube world, and that's okay. I really enjoy the folks that are here, and I really enjoy hanging out with you. I believe it was Michael Murillo, and I could be wrong, but after one of my shows, he said, "Man, it's like hanging out on the boat."
Yep.
Watching the show, and to me, that was the biggest compliment at that time. Anyway, that I was like, you know what? That's exactly what I want this show to be like. I want it to be, guys hanging out, talking about tactics, talking about, telling stories, and just having a good time. And that's exactly what this has turned out to be. It's just like another day on the river fishing with Zack, and it's good time.
I do have one little topic here.
Yeah, go ahead. We're not shutting down yet.
So it's along the same lines as what we started off on there. All these expensive fishing rods and electronics and all that stuff, you do not have to have that stuff, especially when you're first starting. I mean, you could take somebody that's just starting off and give them all this stuff, and I don't think that they're going to catch fish because you are so overwhelmed with stuff.
Yeah.
To get to the point where even where we're at, which is, it's not that crazy compared to some of these guys are just really, really on top of it. But just to get to where we're at right now, you don't have to have all that stuff, because I'm mark my words, you'd be overwhelmed and you would stop having fun. So don't worry about having the best hooks and the best line, the best fishing poles and all that stuff. As you can afford it, and as you come across deals and stuff, you get it. And it will make your life simpler, and you'll be able to catch more fish, just because of convenience and efficiency. And something that we're just, been doing this our little area we fish in. And last winter was the first time I fished all winter. I mean, we didn't miss a beat. And we're figuring out something that a lot of guys, like Doc, he knows exactly what I'm talking about, is learning where the fish are going to be and what their patterns are. If we can figure that out better, we'll catch more fish. I know we will. I've got one little spot Roger knows about, one little area that I'm trying to figure out ahead of everything else, just because it's convenient, it's close for me, all that stuff. And if I can get that area figured out 100% or close, real well, then I can start moving down the river farther, I guess. But that stuff is going to be, that's more important than what equipment we're really using. Is knowing where they're going to be, because if you know where they're at, even if you don't have the best gear and all that stuff, and you can throw baits in front of them, guess what? You're going to catch them. You're going to, even if you miss a few, so what?
Yeah.
You're going to catch a lot of big fish. So, how many times, we go out, Chris Souders made a video there last year, where he went out, and I'm trying to remember what the title was, something about, it's not all unicorns and rainbows. Everybody has days where you go out there, you think you're hot stuff, and you go out there and you're humbled,
That river will humble you.
That's days where I want to have Roger or Skip with me, because at least we still have a good time, enjoy each other's company, and enjoy God's creation, out there on the river, because this is something, a thought just came to me. I remember the the first few times I went out on that river on my boat, I live right on the river. I mean, it's just right down the road. I go across the bridge, across the high river, twice a day most of the time. And until you get out, when you get out there on a boat on that river, it's like you're in a different world. There's stuff and things you can't conceive it until you're out there. Everything from the wildlife to just the immensity of the water. You're out there on the river, and it doesn't look that big until you're out there on a little tiny boat out in the middle of it, and you look around, and it's like, wow.
That's a fact.
We see stuff on the shoreline and stuff I didn't even know. Historical value stuff, like the Erie Canal where it used to dump out into the Ohio. It's still there. There used to be another lock and dam system on the river, which has all been replaced over the years. But the remnants of some of the dams are still out there, and we like to fish those at those spots normally because they blew the dams up and all that rubble and stuff is there, and it holds a lot of fish. But when you get out there, it is just so cool to be out there and see the beavers. And you think you see an eagle once in a while. Go out on the river, you'll see eagles all over the place. That's where they live.
That's where Skip just said. The eagles, fun to watch. You see a lot of them on the river, at least in our area.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
One of the coolest things, I got it on video here a year and a half ago. I was fishing a little spot there, and something caught my eye over on the bank. There was a bobcat walking the bank, and it had a beaver in its mouth, and it was walking down the bank. And I got it all on video, like
that is
18,
cool.
20 seconds. Oh yeah, man! And
I like to see that. I haven't seen that.
I mean, you don't hardly ever see a bobcat except for on a trail cam or something, But if you're out there on the water, it's like those animals just don't pay any attention to you hardly. It's like you're not even there. So they and the beavers. How many times at night have you had the crap scared out of you because a beaver, you're too close to his den or something, and he comes up and it just smacks his tail right up next to your boat, and that'll raise the hair up on the back of your neck.
When we were trying to catch bait down there in Portsmouth, remember there was a beaver swimming around back there while we was throwing cast nets, and that thing ended up coming close to the boat and smacked his tail and scared the crap out of girls. They were like, "What is it doing?"
Yeah, he's trying to run you
get
off.
Away. That's
right. Yeah, that's a lot of it's a lot of fun out there on the river. It really is. Even if when you don't catch fish and stuff, and taking I have grandson Dallas. Last year he went with me probably better than half the time he was on the boat, and I'm not kidding you, man. He absolutely just have a ball with the kids on the boat. I got a chance to take 2 of them out a couple other times. And when you're catching fish with the kids, that's the pinnacle of all of it,
Yeah.
Because it's fun catching the fish, but then to get to see them catch them,
right,
and helping them out, stuff. You're the hero then.
Well, that's kind of like last week you guys all saw me post that picture or whatever of my daughter catching that big blue, and typically when the girls want to go fishing, I take them crappie fishing. We'll go after some bluegill or something. I want to try to keep them entertained, keep them busy, and for whatever reason she's like, "No, Dad, I want to catch a big fish. I don't want to catch a little fish. I want to catch something big." And I got lucky. I mean, it didn't work. It just worked out that way that I was able to take her out there and put her on one in 90 minutes. And, but yeah, you're right. I mean, getting the kids out there and turning them, just watching their eyes light up, man, that's where it's at.
Hey, when I saw that picture of your daughter and that fish, I talked to Skip about it, and I told him, I said, "Yeah, you think she's the happy one? Dad's the happy one. He's the one that's on top of the
guy
world,
right here,
man." Because his little girl wanted to go catch big fish, and guess what? She did. and he got to take and put her on it. Man, that was, what more do you want?
Yeah, it was.
Now,
And,
I want to say one thing about.
Go ahead.
I want to say one thing about, I said the word hero there. In general, here, this is about the catfish community. We watch all these YouTube videos. We go to the shows. We go to the, seminars and all this stuff. And I've had the opportunity to meet two people I watched on the YouTubes and all that stuff. And I've also in the past, I've been around for 57 years, and everybody has heroes and people they look up to, and you see on the TV and all that kind of stuff. And I've had the opportunity to meet a few, and I've heard this more than once, and I totally understand it. They say that you don't want to meet your heroes because you'll be disappointed. And this last year, I got to meet two people that I really looked up to. One that I shouldn't compare, but anyway, I got to meet two guys that really meant a lot to me, and I actually got to talk to them, and guess what? I was not disappointed. Especially with
the two, and I guarantee, and I agree with you.
Well, yeah,
100%.
You know them too. Chris Souders was one, and then when we went down to Alabama, I got to meet Doc Lang. And if there's a nicer person around, or somebody that knows more and will share more with you, I don't know who it would be.
No.
He just absolutely went out of his way to make sure we had a good time down there. He put us on fish. He ate with us. He shared stories. I mean, it was like, wow.
Yeah, we went out to dinner. And the thing about it that tickled me the most was he acted like we was the ones, making him have a good time. And that was the part that really floored me, is that, I feel, I'll be honest with you, I've fished with Doc before, and I talked to Doc here and there, and but it doesn't matter. Every time I get around him, I still feel like a little kid, because like, that's Doc Lang.
Yeah. Yeah, no kidding. Yeah. I mean,
so it was, I agree with you 100%. There aren't too many guys out there like Chris Souders and Doc Lang, in my opinion. I mean, there's lots of great folks right here. I mean, goodness, just
what I found though in our what I found in our community, the catfishing world, and I'm speaking in general terms, is it's a lot of good people, a lot of honest people, a lot of God-fearing people. People, the thing is, of course, we got the one thing in common: we all like catching fish. But generally speaking, it's been a really, really good experience. With all the people I've got to meet here in the last year and so forth. So,
yeah, for the most part, I mean, actually, in my experience, I haven't had really any negative feedback. I haven't had any real haters. I got somebody that thumbs down every video, but I think I figured out who that was, and that's fine. But I'd say a good 95% or better of these folks out here in the catfish world are just like you and I, just normal people that just have a good time. Most people are going to share anything they can with you. I know there's a few folks out there that in the spotlight that get some heat and get some haters. And, for those folks, I just say, if you're not getting heat or haters, you ain't made it yet. I ain't made it yet because I don't have too many haters. But, there are a few folks out there that really try to, take the wind out of your sails. But, if that happens to you, or you happen to be one of those folks experiencing something like that, just brush it off, because you can't please everybody. And the moment you try, you'll lose the folks that were always there for you to begin with. And those are the ones that you really want to stick with and that mean the most to you.
Well, buddy, it's almost an hour. We probably better shut this thing down.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I know that those other guys are still going live. Guys, I appreciate the crowd tonight. Stopping in and hanging out with us. I saw quite a few people come in after the beginning of the show. Justin's Fishing Fetish, Buckeye Catfishing was in there. Wampus Cat showed up, and I probably can't. Sean T. Can't really probably scroll up far enough to get you guys all, but I want to tell each and every one of you, I appreciate you taking the time out on Tuesday night to come hang out with us. Zack, thank you very much for popping in and sharing your story with us. Just as always, it's like hanging out on the boat, man. I just had a good time. We just didn't catch any fish this time.
Yeah, maybe Friday.
Brandon, thank you for that. If you guys would hit the thumbs up on your way out, we're going to shut her down. Don't forget that I believe Chunky's still live out there. Palmetto Cats is still fishing his 24-hour challenge. Looks like he's got 11 hours left, so that ought to be fun just to see how he's hanging in there. But thank you guys all for being here. Until next week, keep it real. I'm trying to stop it.